Welcome to Dark Justice, where the shadows speak louder than the lies. Ellington, Connecticut, a quiet town, the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked, where neighbors wave as they pass, and where Christmas decorations glow gently in the cold December air. But inside the beautiful colonial home at 7 Birchview Drive, something dark was growing. A storm far more violent than the snow outside. A storm that would end with a mother dead, a father tied to a chair, and police searching for a masked intruder, who, as they would soon learn, never existed. This is the case where technology became the silent witness. A Fitbit, a device built to count steps, instead counted down to murder. But before we unravel the lies, the timelines, and the staged crime scene, we need to understand the woman whose kindness lit up an entire community. Because this story isn't about how Connie died, it's about how she lived, and how her own footsteps helped bring her killer to justice. Connie Margarotta Debbate was born on July 31st, 1976, in Rockville, Connecticut, the youngest child of Cindy and Kenneth Margarotta. Her brother Keith would later say he remembered the exact moment he first saw her, the nurse lifting her up to the window in the hospital nursery. From that moment on, he said, she was the sunshine of our family. Growing up in Vernon and Ellington, Connie was the kind of person who excelled at everything she touched, smart, driven, loved by everyone. She graduated from Ellington High School in 1995 and then from UConn in 1999. Her friends said she lived life with an infectious enthusiasm, the girl who walked into a room and suddenly the room felt brighter. Professionally, she became a force in pharmaceutical sales, eventually working for Reckitt Benckiser, where her performance placed her in the top 20% of the entire company 3 President's Club awards. 3. But if you asked Connie what mattered most, it wasn't the awards. It wasn't the promotions. It wasn't the money. It was her boys. Connie married Richard Dabate on July 4th, 2003, Independence Day. For most couples, it's a symbol of unity, celebration, and a new beginning. But for Connie, it would one day become symbolic for something far darker, the freedom she would never live to see. At first glance, they looked like the perfect pair. Connie bright, warm, effortlessly charismatic. Richard 2 years younger, quiet, technical, almost shy in a way that made him seem harmless. He worked as a computer network administrator. Nothing flashy, nothing alarming, just a simple man with a simple job. They settled into a stunning 4-bedroom colonial home in Ellington. The kind of place that sits behind trimmed hedges and glows at night with warm light through the windows, a postcard version of suburban happiness. And soon, the picture seemed complete. In 2006, they welcomed their first son, RJ. 3 years later came little Connor. Connie adored motherhood in a way people rarely see. She wasn't just involved, she was invested. When Connor was born with a cleft lip and needed continuous medical care in Boston, Connie stepped into battle like a warrior. She drove to appointments, navigated hospitals, juggled her demanding pharmaceutical career, and all the while cared for her father, who was fighting leukemia. Most people would crumble under that kind of pressure. But Connie? She kept showing up for everyone. She volunteered in the community. She helped sick neighbors. She delivered meals, planned fundraisers, and still found the time and heart to serve as vice president of the Ellington Volunteer Ambulance Corps. People called her Sunshine in human form, because she didn't just brighten rooms, she changed them. But even sunshine casts shadows, and the shadows in Connie's life were growing longer, quietly, slowly, and entirely behind her back. By 2015, the perfect home on Birchview Drive was no longer as peaceful as it looked from the outside. Friends noticed Connie seemed stressed, more tired, more worried. She brushed it off when people asked, saying she was just overwhelmed, mostly about finances. Richard had picked up spending habits that didn't sit right with her money missing, receipts she didn't recognize, strange charges. And still, Connie tried to make it work. Because that's who she was, she believed in her family. But the truth was far darker than a few bank statements. Richard wasn't just being irresponsible, he was being unfaithful. That year, he reconnected with someone from his past, Sarah Ganza, a woman he had known since junior high school. Their history wasn't innocent. They'd had secret encounters in 2005, 2007, and 2008, all while he was married to Connie. Old flames are dangerous, but old secrets, even more. This time, the affair wasn't just emotional. It was physical, consistent, and getting serious. By June 2015, everything exploded. Sarah was pregnant, and Richard did what cowards do best. He panicked. He told Sarah he would divorce Connie. Then he said he wouldn't. Then he said he would again. For months, he swung back and forth like a man trapped between two versions of himself. The family man and the liar Sarah didn't push him for divorce. In fact, she said she would raise the baby alone if needed. But Richard couldn't stop making promises. Plans of a future together one day, cold silence the next. Meanwhile, Connie, who was living under the same roof as the man she trusted, had no idea, no suspicion, no clue. In November, she even sent Richard a romantic photo of herself, a gentle spark of hope in her message. "I'm ready for you." But the day before Connie sent that message, Richard had texted Sarah, telling her he and Connie were on the same page about divorce. He was lying to his wife, lying to his mistress, lying to himself. And whether he realized it or not, the walls around him were closing in. Because when a lie becomes too big to carry, someone always gets crushed beneath it. And soon, those lies would reach a breaking point. One that would destroy a mother, 2 children, and an entire community. December 23rd, 2015, 2 days before Christmas. A date Connie never got to see end. That morning began like any other. Connie planned to attend a spin class at the YMCA. The boys were getting ready for school. Richard claimed he left home around 8:30 or 8:40 a.m. for work. He said he realized he left his laptop behind, turned around, and came back. Except nearly every piece of that story was a lie. Because the truth was written in timestamps, not in confessions, not in witnesses, not in Richard's rehearsed story, but in cold digital numbers silently counting down to murder. At 8:26 a.m., someone logged into Facebook from the Dabate home computer. Richard claimed he had already left for work, but the digital footprint said otherwise. At 8:37 a.m., another log. A search for long-lasting tattoo ideas. A strange search for a man supposedly rushing to work. A strange search on a morning that would turn deadly. At 8:46 a.m., Connie's Fitbit registered her stepping out the door, headed to her normal spin class at the YMCA. But then, at 8:47 a.m., just 1 minute later, the home alarm system was armed from Richard's key fob A device with a range of only 500 feet, meaning Richard wasn't on the road. He wasn't at work. He wasn't forgetting his laptop. He was right there. Only seconds after arming it, someone tried to disarm the alarm remotely using Richard's phone. It failed the first time, then succeeded. Arm disarm, rearm, chaos in the logs. A man scrambling to rewrite the morning before it even happened. At 8:53 a.m., YMCA cameras captured Connie walking in calm, unaware, going about her day. Her class was cancelled. She left at 9:08 a.m., and within 10 minutes, someone at home, someone who shouldn't have been home, checked the YMCA website. Richard wasn't just waiting. He wasn't just watching. He was tracking her. At 9:23 a.m., Connie's garage door opened. She walked inside. Her Fitbit recorded everything, every step, every movement normal, everyday footsteps of a mother returning home. Those steps continued. 9, 39, 49, 50. At 10:05 a.m., her Fitbit recorded its final movement. No running, no panic, just stopping. Forever. 7 minutes later, at 10:12 a.m., the panic alarm was triggered from Richard's key fob. Police rushed into the house. What they found was not terror, not struggle, not a survivor, but Richard lying on the kitchen floor loosely zip-tied to a metal chair, with shallow cuts, the kind that look painful but don't feel like much at all. The intruder story collapsed the moment it began, because the timestamps had already spoken the truth. He claimed a masked intruder had tied him up, demanded money, and shot Connie in the basement. He said Connie walked in unexpectedly, and he yelled for her to run, but Richard said she ran to the basement. Who runs into danger? Nothing in his story made sense. Police found Connie shot twice, once in the head, once in the abdomen, with a gun Richard had bought just 2 months earlier. There were no signs of forced entry, no valuables taken. 3 separate canine units found 0 scent trail of an intruder. One dog even circled back repeatedly to Richard and tried to climb into the ambulance with him. The scene wasn't chaotic, it was staged, carefully, desperately, badly. The Connecticut State Police began one of the most advanced digital investigations in state history. They consulted experts from Columbia University. They studied Connie's Fitbit movements second by second. They analysed home alarm logs, Microsoft account logins, cell phone tower connections, and the result? Richard's alibi shattered, completely. Richard's timeline wasn't just suspicious, it was impossible. Every statement he made, every direction he pointed investigators toward, every excuse he rehearsed, all of it collapsed under the weight of digital evidence. His movements contradicted his story. His words contradicted the data, and the truth was carved into dozens of devices, computers, alarms, phones, routers, cell towers. But the device that destroyed him the most, a Fitbit, a tiny piece of plastic clipped to Connie's hip, something she wore without thinking, became the witness Richard never expected. A witness that never lies, never forgets, never miscounts, never misses a step. Every step Connie took was recorded. Every step Richard didn't take mattered even more. The story he tried to build with lies, the Fitbit tore apart with numbers. And while investigators were quietly piecing together the truth, Richard's behaviour after Connie's death revealed something chilling, not just guilt, but coldness. Instead of grieving, instead of holding his sons, instead of falling apart like any normal husband would, Richard went straight to money. 5 days after Connie was murdered, barely a week before Christmas, he filed a claim for her $475,000 life insurance. 5 days. When that didn't come through immediately, he drained over $90,000 from her investment accounts, money Connie had saved for her boys, money meant for their future, their education, their stability. By the time Richard stood before a jury, the total left in Connie's name was $6.24. Neighbours saw him talk casually about takeout restaurants as if nothing had happened. Friends said the way he retold the murder story felt rehearsed, almost performed. His best friend came prepared with tissues, ready to console a grieving widower. But instead, he said, there was nothing, no sadness, no anger, no tears, just nothing. It was as if Richard's heart had died long before Connie did. Richard was finally arrested in 2017, but thanks to delays, attorney changes, and the pandemic, he remained free on bail for nearly 5 years. Then, in April 2022, the trial began. It was devastating from the first day. The prosecution laid out more than 600 pieces of evidence. The Fitbit timeline alone was a weapon. The alarm logs, the cell towers, the computer searches, the affair, the pregnancy, the motive, the lies. Piece by piece, the puzzle snapped into place, and then came the testimony that silenced the room. Sarah Ganza, the woman Richard had been seeing behind Connie's back. Her voice shook as she described how Richard made promise after promise, how he claimed he would leave Connie, how he changed his story depending on the day, the mood, the pressure. Her pregnancy had boxed him into a corner. His double life was collapsing, and instead of choosing truth, instead of choosing fatherhood, instead of choosing honesty, he chose murder. He chose the darkest, most irreversible path a person can choose. He chose to eliminate the one person who trusted him the most, the woman who built a home with him, the woman who raised his children, the woman who believed in him long after he stopped believing in himself. He chose to murder Connie, the mother of his sons, the heart of her community, the light of everyone who knew her. And in the end, the story, he thought he could control the story. He rehearsed the story he desperately tried to rewrite, with lies, staged scenes, and fake wounds, was exposed by a Fitbit, a fitness tracker, a step counter, a tiny device clipped to Connie's hip. That small piece of technology became the witness Richard never anticipated, a witness that never lies, never forgets, and never stops recording the truth. On May 10th, 2022, after years of waiting, years of delays, and years of Richard walking free on bail, the jury walked back into the courtroom, and their verdict was simple: guilty on all counts. Judge Karen Klatt looked at Richard, the man who had pretended to be a grieving husband, a man who drained his dead wife's bank accounts, a man who nearly destroyed the future of his own sons, and she handed down a sentence that echoed through the courtroom: 65 years in prison. Richard insisted he was innocent. He claimed he was still seeking justice for his wife. He looked the judge in the eye and said he had nothing to do with it. But the evidence, the timelines, the alarm logs, the Google searches, the cell towers, the movements captured by Connie's Fitbit. They told a different story, a story he could never escape, a story written in numbers and sealed by truth. Connie's community refused to let her be remembered for the way she died. They refused to let her kindness be overshadowed by tragedy. Her friends, her neighbours, and the people she volunteered beside rallied around her sons. Her boys now live with loving relatives, family who protect them, nurture them, and remind them every day how deeply their mother loved them. Neighbours, the same neighbours Connie helped for years, created a college fund for the boys because that's what Connie would have done for anyone else. The community she served with her whole heart made sure her children would have a future. People still speak about her warmth, her generosity, her smile that made strangers feel safe, her willingness to help, even when she was already carrying the weight of the world. A single mother of kindness, a volunteer with endless compassion, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a leader, a light that didn't go out, it spread. Her brother Keith said through tears, "It's a weight lifted but bittersweet. She deserved so much more." Her mother, the woman who held her as a baby, who watched her become a mother herself, whispered, "She's here. She's still here with us." And today, as the Connecticut Supreme Court has upheld Richard Debate's conviction, justice stands firm. Not perfect, not painless, but firm. 2 days before Christmas, the world lost Connie, a woman whose life was filled with love. A woman whose final footsteps led investigators straight to the truth. Her Fitbit may have been the silent witness that revealed her killer, but Connie's true legacy is written in the hearts of every person she touched. Her voice, her story, her love, they will never be forgotten. If Connie's story touched you, let her light continue to reach others. Share her story. Support families affected by intimate partner violence. And if you ever suspect danger in someone's home, don't stay silent. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new case. Your support helps bring more hidden truths into the light. Until the next story, stay safe, stay aware, and stay in the dark with me on Dark Justice with Nora.